For those of you who don't know, Lilith in astrology is a place where we have insecurities. It's usually a place where we have issues that we have repressed about ourselves. And because those are repressed emotions, thoughts, and feelings that we have around those issues, what happens is that when we see those qualities in other people, that tend to trigger us. As an example, if somebody has Lilith and Sagittarius, when they meet somebody who is free-spirited, does whatever the fuck they want, however they want to do it, you know, completely drops everything at a drop of a hat and travels the world and just seems to be living their life freely, not in the box, just living their life and enjoying it, it can be very triggering to someone with Lilith and Sag if they have not worked through their Lilith energy. Because Lilith and Sag is being called to let go of judgment, to be more open-minded, to stop being closed-minded, to be open to new experiences, to be a little detached from their beliefs and their values. Because the problem with Sagittarius is that sometimes they get too quickly attached to their beliefs. Like Sagittarius sometimes would formulate an opinion about something without having all the data. You know, a lot of times when you start pressing them for the logic behind the opinion will fall to pieces, and Sagittarius will be upset that they are being challenged or that people don't agree with them, when really they haven't actually done the work necessary for them to be able to stand on that opinion 100%. And they're just going off of half-truths. And they are refusing to deeply examine the rest of that story. So Lilith and Sag, if they have not done the work, if they haven't healed or haven't addressed any part of that in their personality, they're going to be people that are very zealous and that tend to hide behind religion. So these are people that are going to be a part of some overly zealous religious group or overly zealous cult where they haven't even investigated what it is that they believe or why they believe it, but they'll stand by it 100%. And they'll be willing to argue till the death about it, even though they don't have any actual like factual information to support it, right? Or they're going to be people that are very close-minded, very judgmental. They're going to be people that have like xenophobia. You know, they only like people who look like them, who sound like them, people who are just like them. Basically, people who affirm their existence on Earth. They're going to be people who don't like people that are other, people that are different from them. They're going to be people who don't really travel much, you know, people who have stayed in their own little bubble most of their lives. They're going to be people who think that they're right about things without actually like confirming that they're right about things. They're going to be people who refuse to learn new information because insecurities, right? They're stuck in their ways. They're insecure. They're so afraid of questioning anything, you know, that for fear that it might get dismantled if they were to question it. So they're just like blindly accept things. A lot of times these types grew up in homes where when they question things, they were like shamed for it or given some kind of negative feedback for it. Like for instance, it's not uncommon for me to see in my practice people who have this placement who grew up with parents that were super religious or that were in some kind of a cult or you know, live in an environment where parents did not allow them to speak their mind, to raise questions, to investigate, to consider another viewpoint. It's almost like the parent wanted their child to think exactly like them, and the child wasn't allowed to investigate whether whatever the parents was thinking was actually correct, or whether that was healthy, or whether that made sense for them personally. Because, you know, the parent could have a viewpoint that works for them, but it may not work for the child. You know what I mean? So a lot of times they come from these like super aggressive backgrounds when it comes to people having a point of view and people willing to defend it till the end without actually having all the factual information to back it up. So when a person turns around the Lilith and Sag energy into a positive energy, they become people that are curious about life, people that are curious about the world. This is why they surround themselves with diverse people. This is why they travel the world. This is why they choose to engage in activities that allow them to challenge themselves, to look at life differently, to learn new things, to process new information, and to become people that are just rich because they've had several life experiences, and rich because they're able to hold even conflicting viewpoints, you know, without necessarily going into a crisis of conscience about it. Because let's face it, life is complicated. And sometimes, you know, answers aren't so straightforward. And this expectation that we have that, you know, everything is supposed to make sense 100% all the time is ridiculous, because sometimes some things just do not make sense. And, you know, sometimes two things can be true at the same times or opposite. And that is the interesting part of life that all of us have to reckon with. But unfortunately, sometimes Lilith and Sag will try to avoid that discomfort by forcing things into boxes that don't necessarily make sense. So that's Lilith and Sag. Somebody said my own family. I admire people who live a free lifestyle. Yes, it's good, because if you have Lilith and Sag, you should be surrounded by diversity, because that's who you're here to become. And if you find that people who are free trigger you, like if you find that people who don't care trigger you because they do what they want, then that should tell you you're not living right. Because a lot of times, like, what we're triggered by in other people is a reflection of what we need to figure out about ourselves. It's never really about them. It's always about us. Because if my living freely makes you uncomfortable, then you have to ask yourself, like, why am I uncomfortable? Why do I dislike the fact that this person is doing whatever they want to do with their life? Why does that make me upset? Why am I angry that this person gets to do whatever they want? And usually the answer is going to be because I don't feel like I can do whatever I want. And then you have to investigate that. Like, why don't I feel like I can do whatever I want? Where did I get the message that it was not okay for me to do whatever I want? Where did I get the message that it was not okay for me to explore, you know, who I want to be and how I want to be? And usually when they dig deep, it goes back to their family. It goes back to their childhood. So a lot of Lilith is formed in childhood. A lot of it gets played out when they're little before they become even aware of it as adults. Somebody said they're an Aquarius, their mom is a Pisces, and they get on each other's nerves so much. Yes, I can see that. Aquarius and Pisces are just 100% different. Not even a little bit the same. They come from two different worlds. They don't even speak the same language. One is speaking like vibes and intuition and psychic energy and spirituality and dreams. And the other is speaking science and facts and realism, you know, sober realism. So yes, the two are not going to get along well. So that makes sense.